dope taste. Like I run the baby. Anytime, I'm all in. Got a lot of dope taste. Like I run the bases.
Waterboy Confidential Sports News Fan Talk, plain and simple. It's the most loved, hated, and hydrated Robbie Digital back with a preseason week 2 good, bad, and ugly recap of the Commanders versus Lions 17-13 loss. Look, man, we're seeing it again, the same issues, the same problems week to week now in preseason. Not sure if we're going to be able to fix them, but one thing we can't say is it's just preseason or the starters aren't in. We're going to really get into it, but first, we're going to start with the good, right? Okay, the good, it's easy to see. Daronte Jones, defensive vision, everything that we were expecting with him coming in, creating confusion up front, attacking from different angles, just creating chaos and confusing the QB. You saw it there on that Amik Robertson play. Dobbs didn't know what direction he was coming from, what was going on. He just got lit up, fumbled the ball. That turned into a TD there. And then you had the confusion on the back end in the secondary. We got some pretty good pressure up front. Good confusion in the secondary led to an interception. So what we're seeing is what we wanted to see, bringing in Daronte Jones, wanting to see that Vikings-type scheme where we're blitzing from different angles, creating chaos, and creating turnovers now. So we got 2 turnovers early in this game. We had about 3 turnovers last game. So good signs right now early in the preseason with this defensive scheme. And hopefully we can take this into the regular season, but that's really going to depend on how this defensive front can hold up. But we'll get into that later. More for the good, Antonio Williams. The receiver room is crowded, but Antonio Williams is making the most of his opportunities. 3 receptions for 41 yards, playing good off of Cali Manis, who went 11 for 14. He's also a nice little good sign. But as far as people that we expect to impact the team this season, especially early on, good to see some production with the volume he's getting. 3 targets, 3 catches, and a 20-yard play there. So he's able to make some chunk plays in the receiving game as well. So, yeah, good job there with Antonio Williams, balling out, making the most of his targets, and making some big plays in the mix as well. So now time for the bad. Look, Sonny Styles once again is looking below average, and everything that we heard about him coming from the combine is not translating on the field yet. We're not seeing no pop. We're not seeing no burst. We're not really seeing him in the mix. Actually, we're seeing everything that we don't want to see, right? So we're seeing last week we broke down the issues from last week. We didn't want to overreact. We said, okay, first week, show some decent signs. Didn't play that bad, but needs to diagnose these zone and counter runs, these stretch play runs a little bit better. Needs to shed these blocks a little bit better. Needs to show some better lateral movement while you're reading these run plays, especially. Can't be overcommitting. You got to, read, process, and then attack. Let's see how that translates going into next week. And this week, it got ugly. Couldn't shed the blocks. Really wasn't in the mix. Only had 1 tackle. And when we talk about overcommitting, getting caught up in the wrong direction, not being able to shed blocks, look at this 50-yard touchdown run by Dobbs. Is it his fault? No. Up at the line, they overcommitted on the run fake there, but he on the back end is the second line of defense, and he was easy money. He overcommitted and just couldn't get off the block, couldn't make up for the mistake and get back into play, and Dobbs was gone for a touchdown. So what we have to see is impact play and improvement from our number 7 pick, Sonny Styles, or else we're going to start looking around saying, did we pick the wrong guy? Is this another Rocky McIntosh? Is this another Jamin Davis? It's looking like we got another athletic linebacker that might not be able to play linebacker. So, again, what we came into this week saying is, will Sonny Styles improve, right? Can we start to see some of these traits that we saw at the combine and in college translate on the NFL field? And the answer is not yet. All right, we still got to wait for him to play with the starters, right? You still got to wait for him to play with the starters. But the reason why we keep asking, hey, oh, okay, well, or the reason why we keep saying don't overreact, wait for him to play with the starters is the ugly. And the ugly is this horrendous performance again in the trenches. This time, a fully horrendous performance by the offensive line and defensive line. You got the starters in on the first drive. You run 3 plays, 2 of them pass plays. On both of the pass plays, your quarterback's getting contacted. One, he's getting a sack. This other one, he has to dump the ball off to avoid getting hit. So there's no sustainability, especially up the middle. And part of the reason why you're getting pressure on that sack is because this tight end that we all keep hearing is such a great blocking tight end, John Bates, is getting beat on the inside. So, like I said, this line can't even afford injuries because the starters aren't even good. You just think the starters are good because they're starters and you're a fan of the team, but they're really not that good, as you saw with John Bates just giving up that inside sack, looking rusty, not getting a lot of time in practice. So, again, we're seeing 2 weeks in a row our quarterback starting team under pressure. Mariota didn't even survive last week, and he barely played. So you have pressure with Mariota not playing. He got an MCL sprain. You already got Laramie Tunsil out. The middle of the line is just unsettled. So we're seeing just pressure up the middle, and it's affecting the run game this week. Because last week we was doing pretty good. This week, 2.1 yards per carry, right? So if you don't have the run game going, then you definitely aren't in position to set up the pass in any way. And this is a big problem where we have to figure out what are we doing? Because these are known issues. This is why I mentioned all of this in my previous videos with the horror show video and in my recap. But we're sitting here with 35 plus million in salary cap space and issues on the offensive line. And the question is, when are we going to bring in a free agent, a veteran that's available? When are we going to trade for somebody? Are we waiting for roster cut downs to get veteran cuts? Like, we need to be aggressive. Why are we even sitting on this 35 million? I don't even know. But what we need to do is see Adam Peters do something. Because right now, this line is not prepared to go into the regular season, take on the fronts that we have in division, let alone outside the division. But the Eagles front, the Giants have been drafting defensive ends, pass rushers. And then you got the Cowboys who just rebuilt their defensive front with draft picks and trades. So if you think that you're going to hold up against those lines in the regular season with their starters, when your starters are pretty much backups and your backups are pretty much pathetic, it's going to get ugly. And that's just on the offensive side. The defensive side is looking like a mess too. Another week in a row, the line is just getting pushed around and giving up inside runs and just leaving the linebackers exposed to second level blocking from the offensive linemen. It's just the only reason they're not running over us more is because it's preseason and they're trying to work on their pass game. Once the regular season starts, I expect teams to just come in here and run all over us. Just look at the performances these last 2 weeks. You're giving up 169 yards rushing to Detroit, 4.8 yards per carry. Last week, we're playing against the Dolphins, and Devon Achane and Ollie Gordon are averaging 5.6 yards per carry. So you have to be real with yourself. If you can't stop the run, that means you have to overcommit, take away some of the disguises, and just crowd the line, but not be able to, drop back and impose your will and confuse the offense. Instead, you got to worry about this run game. And if you're not stopping the run game now with the backups, you got to hope the starters can. You got to hope the starters can stay healthy. But where it sits now with this scheme, you want the linebackers free. They're the ones doing the disguising, the dropping back, the blitzing, also the corners too. But we need these middle linebackers free. And if this defensive line is not holding up, they're giving up 2-3 yards or allowing the offensive line to get to the second level, it's going to be a problem. And if you have to overcommit to stop the run, that's what sets up plays like that Dobbs 50-yard touchdown. So we keep hearing this isn't the starters, this isn't the whole starting defensive line, the whole starting defensive squad. At the end of the day, we're getting pushed around. we're getting pushed around. The only time we look good is going into the third, fourth quarter. That's great. But when we're looking at these first two drives, it's very clear that we don't have the depth on the offensive or defensive line, and some moves need to get made, or we're going to be in trouble starting the regular season. So as we look at this final scorecard for week 2, the bad and the ugly is outweighing the good. I mean, we did have some good things, some strong good points, right? This Daronte Jones defensive scheme. You can't show everything and dominate the game with defense and show all your moves before the regular season, but he shows some of his cards. He shows some of what he had in his bag as far as this defensive scheme goes, and that led to some turnovers throughout the game, but some big plays early on. When we look at that interception and fumble for a touchdown recovery in the end zone, but also we had Antonio Williams playing good with his opportunities. However, the good that we see will fall victim to the bad and the ugly, right? So when we look at this defensive scheme, if our linebackers and our defensive front is not holding up, if they can't stop the run, if they can't protect the linebackers, when we look at the ugly, then this Daronte Jones scheme that we're seeing work early on is going to work from time to time, but it's going to get exploited. Or he's going to have to adjust it to make up for the deficiencies on the linebacker side with Sonny Styles and in the defensive trenches. And then Antonio Williams and Jayden Daniels, they're only a product of the offensive line. So we're going to be playing from behind. We're going to have a lack of rhythm. We're just not going to have time to throw the ball or use the run to set up the offense if these problems continue on the ugly side of things. So we got to sound the alarm now. We got a lot of cap space, 35 plus million. And at the end of the day, we need to be more worried about protecting Jayden Daniels and securing this defensive front than we are worried about protecting salary cap space. So, the alarm has to get sound now to start exploring free agent options, preparing for these veteran cuts and even trades. Or when we get into this regular season, like I said already, it's going to get ugly. It's going to get very ugly. So tell me what you think. What are your thoughts? What's the good, and bad, and the ugly from this week? Waterboy Confidential, the most loved, hated, and hydrated. Robbie Digital back again with some Burgundy buzz. Like, comment, subscribe.
Like I run the baby.